Okay, here we are with another episode of the Day After Podcast. The
What's up,
penultimate.
guys? The penultimate start of the war. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Gotta say, I upped my visual game, and so has Joe. That's just proving that, like bigger budgets for the show.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna be providing more quality content now. You know,
exactly. Um, don't have to see me so grainy.
yeah,
Who knows? That
yeah,
might be better. Might be better for you guys to see me not so HD.
yeah. I know. I was so blocky before.
Yeah. But now we in HD and just in time because finale is going to be rolling up next week.
Yes, yes. Well, think of it. We are almost at the end of season 40.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. Like when they did that little like recap at the very end of like everything, like other than, like it, being what they usually show in front of the season finale, that thought occurred to me. But also like, wow, so much has happened, like uh Natalie being there since the very, very beginning.
Mhm.
The whole Amber thing, the
Yeah.
the Tony Shark thing, and then all the like blind sides and like tribal swaps. It's
Mhm.
all led us to here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Think of it. Natalie, Amber, and even Danny have been on edge for like a month.
that, oh God, that's like horrible.
Yeah, that sounds like I mean, what the show gives us is it seems like Edge is the worst place you could ever be on Survivor. Because like you only get like a little bit of rice, and you have to like go and get it from the top of the mountain.
Yeah, not even that. Just especially like with this episode when we did go to Edge of Extinction. Um, w- Basically at this point they had enough people as like they did in the merge. When the
Yeah.
merge tribe came together, it was 12. Right here it was like 12 people. um 12 or 13. Yeah, I think 13
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Which, dude, like I saw it, I'm like, wow, that is so crowded. uh just goes to show like how many people have went home and like all these legends and or well, legends slash winners slash like supposedly good players. um
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but
Well, I mean, to be fair, the reason why this season is so hard to predict who the winner is because they've all been able to be edited as winners before.
yes.
So it's weird because you're trying to think like, are they editing the way that they did their first time, or are they trying to do a different way of editing? Or are they purposely editing someone their old winner way just to be a fake winner? Like, there's a lot of elements that are really kind of coming together that makes it really hard. And this is definitely, in my opinion, the hardest to predict season.
Yeah, especially with the fact that, like we don't know until the finale who is coming back from Edge of Extinction.
Yeah.
And, like they were even talking about during Tribal Council how like not everything is guaranteed until that last person comes. That's when everything is set in stone because like if it's someone, who was voted off way early on, like, Ethan, Natalie, or, like someone like that, and they come back into the game, like their tribal alliances might not fit, like which way are they going to go and how would that shake up the game? As or like, oh, you just got rid of they got rid of Jeremy this episode. He comes back and it's like, oh shit, we only got rid of him once. What
Mhm.
if we can't do it again? And it's that intimidation thing. And Jeremy just goes on a momentum win streak.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
just never really know.
It just seems like they're spoon feeding us. Natalie is coming back. It just like because been getting a lot of Natalie, and even if she didn't get as much talent, like for well, I mean, first off, yeah, she has so many tokens. She's literally like a god over there on Edge of Extinction.
I mean, it's
Um,
like,
and even when they're not even, and they still try to give her a lot of screen time, even when she's not doing something for Edge, they're still trying to give it to her. And if she comes back in, she has guaranteed votes from Danny, uh,
Tyson.
Tyson, Amber, and Parvati, like all of them love Natalie so much, like they're guaranteed to vote for her. Um, and so then all it is if she just plays a pretty good game to the finals and is able to convince a few people like, hey, look at me.
Not
Remember
only not
remember.
not only that, they have to get rid of Tony. Tony
Yeah.
is like, uh, Tony is just too powerful for his own good.
Yeah, it's just I don't think anyone out there is thinking. I think everyone thinks that Tony is Russell Hantz of this season, that he's going to be a zero vote finalist because he's too crazy. They think he's too crazy, which is amazing for Tony. Like that is what Tony wants.
Which I'm like, guys, take away the crazy for a little bit and see what the man has done.
Huh.
It's like, gosh, if we're talking about goats, I don't know. Certain people are who shouldn't be goats are starting to look like a goat,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why? You
Mhm.
are smarter than this.
Yeah. And I mean,
Don't be.
Sarah thinks she can beat Tony in the final three, and that is crazy. That is just crazy.
No. Uh, I would say honestly, out of everyone that's still left, it's going to be a landslide for Tony with whoever is there. If we're if we're if we're thinking that whoever comes back is automatically eliminated at 6, well, just a hypothetical, and we have these 5, and it boils down, the only person I see coming close is probably Denise, because even they recognize, the Queen Slayer and Finding Idols, where, oh, like maybe they'll have like a couple of, maybe a vote or two. Definitely, because I feel Jeremy will not vote for Tony no matter what, because he felt so bitter there.
Yeah.
But it's like, because Sarah is pretty much, she could have taken more hold of the game and been more of an equal to Tony, but she kind of just sat back and let Tony do everything.
Mhm.
Ben, I don't even know where to start with him when it comes to like, he's loyal to a fault. I don't really think
Yeah.
he hasn't really made any like big moves.
Yeah, I think he thinks that if he can make it to the final four, he wins the game. Like I think in his mind, he thinks that's his win condition. And obviously that's not true. He's one of those guys who they might let to final four, but then he just wins and then loses at final three, get being a zero vote finalist. Like that's probably the best case scenario for him.
Yeah,
I thought Ben was going home this episode.
I did for a little bit too, because it's like, all right, you have Nick and you have, well, I mean, if we're going from, I mean, we're still talking like near the end because, like, oh my God, finale is coming up and we're all hyped about that. But, like,
Mhm.
especially in the last part where it was like, like Ben was even meant, like, even targeted mostly because it was like, look how far he got in the, challenge with a disadvantage.
Mhm.
If he didn't get that disadvantage, granted, there are different variables. Maybe he would have felt like, overconfident or something. But even, let's say, the disadvantage, actually hindered him. If he didn't have it, he would still have like the, like same amount of tiles as everyone else and everything. He would have probably won that because he made so much ground with what he had.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's funny about Nick in this situation is if he didn't play that against Ben, Ben wins immunity. Michelle probably goes home. Nick makes the finale.
Yes, which Nick, I think in an I think it works for you in a sense where I get it, Michelle is important to you, but you still got to think about number one.
Who goes home otherwise? I guess I didn't think Michelle was gonna win an immunity. I was really surprised. I mean, when she gave the confessional about how her back is against the wall, that is a hint that she's probably gonna win immunity.
Yeah,
But assuming Nick doesn't hasn't heard that confessional, you don't think that she's gonna win that immunity.
yeah. Also, it was a thing of like, you know, uh, when Nick won the first time, I did have a big old what out loud.
Mhm.
Because I was like, no, let's just why? Um, Mostly because I was like, no, because I don't want Michelle to go. I've grown to like her. Granted, she hasn't like I know she was one of your picks, but
Mhm.
she was one of the ones you stole from me that was in my top 10.
Mhm.
Uh, and like I've been low key rooting for her a little bit um, with who's left. I mean, I would say the people I'm rooting for that are like left in the game
Mhm.
is probably Denise, Tony, and Michelle. And I think part of the thing with Michelle is that whole underdog thing. And I think, yeah, all of us can be a sucker for underdog, but like for me, like I can't help it but be
Yeah.
like, come on,
Yeah.
push for
Like ever since the merge, Michelle has not been on the right side of the votes.
no.
And it's crazy because a lot of these ones are just two people are out of the loop, and she's always one of those two.
No.
But like I think she might win the game though. I think we might have a co-wrong Michelle happening. Because I mean she did say at the beginning of the game pretty much like people didn't credit my win. They didn't think I deserved it. What would be more fitting than her to win
The
the season against like Tony?
I, I guess it comes down to venge. I mean,
I mean, it's
I
not
don't
even
think it's
vengeful jury.
just vengeful
I
jury.
don't think it's vengeful jury. I think it's just I think a lot of people like Michelle. I
A lot of
think just
people do like Michelle, yes, but I guess well, I mean, when it comes to voting for someone for now $2 million, I mean, it's like there's a lot of things that weigh in their head, and it's kind of like the people who are out, what do they respect more? Do they respect gameplay? Do they vote for the person because, they like them? And there was something mentioned, I forget if it was the first tribal council. Oh, yeah, it was because Jeremy went home. Um, about this season is a bit more personal than other seasons, not necessarily because they're all returning players, but some of these people have had like friendships that have lasted years from like different seasons
mhm,
ago. And, like it is, people know everyone's story. And granted, in a regular season, the further you go, the more you know people's stories. But this one, it's like, they're they're part of the survivor family
yeah,
and
everything's out in the open.
exactly. So I guess sometimes, so it is interesting in the sense where yes, there may not be as much of a vengeful jury. I think the only one we really have to like worry about for like in for a spiteful vote might be Jeremy,
Mhm,
because just the way he or just like his whole demeanor when he got voted off, like he knew like freaking Tony. Um,
mhm.
like you could tell he was upset and like
Yeah,
agitated. But
I
that isn't,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
but that is,
I was just gonna say Jeremy's face during that tribal council when he was going home, probably the best face of the season. And we
yeah,
kept seeing it. We kept seeing his face, and then it would change, like if a little thing, like Michelle would give away something. It was
the
so
freaking,
great.
the freaking coin toss.
Oh,
The coin toss thing where it's like she's like, I'm gonna play for myself. Well, Jeff was like, are you gonna play for yourself? And she was like, yes, maybe. And he was like,
yeah.
are you? Well, are you? And then Jeremy is like,
Yeah. By the way, playing it for herself was the right move in that situation because
yes,
she
because
goes home otherwise. Oh,
exactly.
oh, I mean, she could have not played it and not gone home, but like you
That
may as
was
well
the best
play
way she
it.
could play it
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
Because yeah.
one of the great payoffs of that too, it's with the 50-50 or with a legacy advantage, um, the great things about them, and it's kind of like a storytelling element where it's like you introduce something and then it's like, all right, where's the payoff from it? Where does it come into play later on?
Mhm,
And granted, I don't, she wasn't necessarily in danger. Well, I
mhm.
mean, she was on the bottom, but she wasn't the big target. But like seeing the coin flip and everything, and like, all right, did she in a sense, she did kind of waste some fire tokens, but at the same time, it did influence the game so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, like just seeing like the payoff of that and her like little dance.
Hmm. Do you think the coin flip is going to replace the legacy advantage?
Um, I think it's just going to be one of those things that just kind of
Happens.
I think that's going to be, in their, like cabinet of different advantages
They'll,
where
they'll,
it's like,
they- they'll, they'll probably hide it out like a regular idol, like once a season, and it won't be counted as an idol. Like if someone else finds the hidden immunity idol, then they won't put another one out there, but that will also be out there. So there's a chance that that can also be out, like out at the same time as the hidden immunity idol.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
kind of like kind of like in Kagayan where, like they had the super idol that was out there and then the regular idol.
yeah. Yeah, I
That could be,
also I was a little curious because this was apparently the last time that she could play it. But was it the last time you could play it as that final six? Because if it's final six, then that means that we're about to get someone else, and then she could have played it.
I was confused about that too, because usually stuff like that, it's usually final six.
Oh no no oh no because no she had to play at final seven. That's right. I
Gotcha.
was one idol off, one tribal off.
I mean, I was surprised when they said this is the last time you could use fire tokens, and I was like, what? And I was
Yeah,
like,
I was
I thought,
expecting that there'd just be a mad dash of like fire token stuff happening, and it kind of wasn't. It was kind of
well, I mean,
anticlimactic, I'd say.
I would say in the sense where a lot of stuff like in game where you could buy fire tokens or use fire tokens was mostly for like food, shelter stuff, things like that, as opposed to like, add-on redemption or Edge of Extinction, it can help you get back in the game.
Yeah.
And I feel honestly, I was interested to see because part of me thought maybe the fire tokens could have led to kind of like who kind of like a thing where the final immunity challenge, whoever has the most fire tokens accumulated is able to have an advantage in the
Mhm.
like final one.
That would
Um,
make sense. Yeah. I feel like that there should have been more, like you could use tokens to get advantages in the immunity challenges because I felt like just what we saw, it was there wasn't they weren't utilizing the fire tokens as well as like we wanted. Like I think we had high expectations for the fire tokens, and they kind of just were there. They happened a little bit, but it was really
I
only
feel
when Edge was giving them stuff. That was the only times we really saw it.
yeah, I feel no, granted, I feel like how they incorporated it into the game was good for what it was, but like I think maybe that's something they will consider in the future is using it during challenges because Nick even said like, I already have all these fire tokens and
Yeah.
everything, and I haven't been getting any offers, nothing. Um,
Well, yeah, because
and
they have all the supply but none of the demand, or all the
ex-
demand but none of the supply. Um,
exactly.
and what happens is like, good job, you played a good social game, you have a lot of fire tokens. Can't do anything unless one of your allies gets something and sends it to you.
But,
Which
um,
kind of in a way undermines it a little bit.
maybe so.
But I heard that they are bringing fire tokens back for the future seasons. They plan on having it be a staple of Survivor moving forward, but Edge of Extinction will not. So that means that they have a plan to incorporate
Okay.
fire tokens that doesn't involve Edge. So I think all of our problems will be solved hopefully next season.
Well, I mean, yeah, I feel since it's they always, beta a lot of things and like see how it works and everything. Like, with the immunity, individual hidden immunity idol, like there was a lot of like debuffing before they finally had
Yeah,
it where you have to play it at the right time.
yeah.
Otherwise, no one's just gonna vote for you.
Yeah, yeah. The first season was a terrible idol. This and then the next two seasons were like ridiculously broken idols, and then they
Yeah,
got it.
yeah, it was like, okay, so no one's gonna vote for these guys because they have it because they're not they're immune to a vote.
Yeah.
and no one wants to, go home as a
Yeah.
result.
And
So
because of that, they end up going really far. I mean, Terry Dietz won immunity, so it didn't matter. Like,
it didn't necessarily matter, but it was like just another thing that was like
yeah.
making
But I
it,
think
it was
because Terry Dietz won all those immunities, that's why Yul still got that super idol, and then he showed why it was broken.
yes, yeah. Um, because he definitely could have gotten overthrown easily if it was
Okay.
not as
Yeah, he
prominent.
definitely changed a few votes because of it.
Yes. Uh, um, yeah. Um, trying to think. I do find it interesting when it was like a little thing, but when Tony and Jeremy were talking about weeks, and I'm like, it was kind of like a Tarantino,
Uh-huh.
like a Tarantino non-important like talking thing,
Yeah.
but it was like interesting how some people view
Mhm.
time in that regard.
Yeah. There's been a few people online that are saying that this felt like an hour and a half episode that got stretched into 2 hours. Because there was a few things that really like weren't needed. And especially with the end where it was the recap and all that stuff. Uh, and like I kind of get that because I feel like next episode is going to be so much is going on because they have so much they have to get to. They try to
Yeah,
get that done first so that then they can just go straight to the immunity. I mean to the return challenge, and
true.
then have all the conversations and the immunities. Like there's going to be a lot in the next episode.
Also, just because this season Survivor, they don't do recaps anymore. Um,
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
kind of makes sense in that regard.
yeah. I just feel like the finale always needs a recap in some regards. Like you
And,
need to know how these people got there.
yeah, and I feel like because of how they've structured, kind of like how they structured their that episodes, uh, they're more like, okay, so we don't we haven't really been doing it, so we're going to leave it at the very end and get people hyped so they can get right into it. So maybe that was their thinking of it. To be honest, and I told you this before we started recording, I legit thought they were going to do it right there at the very,
Same,
very end. Um,
same. I looked at my phone and was like, there's still 15 minutes of this episode. They could totally do 5 minutes of Edge stuff, a 10 minute battle back, and then end it on like the person winning their way back in, celebrating, and then cut it right there.
yeah.
And it
Um,
being like a big dramatic thing, like, oh my gosh, this person got back in the game.
and then it's like, all right, so we do know the final six and who, and I guess in a sense, I like it that they're coming back at the finale because it gives you that whole other like mystery going into it. It's like, who's coming back? Like
Yeah,
it's going to be revealed at the finale.
yeah,
It makes it harder on us when we're trying to like theorize, who's going to
yeah,
win. But like for entertainment wise, it's like, oh, all right, that just is another thing that
mhm,
makes the finale epic.
yeah,
Is the
yeah,
reveal that
yeah. Hey, you have to now be pretty high on Natalie, right? Because she helped out Tyson.
yes,
Like
yes.
now if she comes back in, she's like Tyson's champion.
I mean, not only that, like she also learned the power of peanut butter.
Yeah, she shared some of her peanut butter with Tyson.
I think that was his golden tip to Natalie. It was like,
Yeah,
you know what, peanut butter. Peanut butter is
yeah,
how I got back in the game.
yeah.
And then
And Tyson's gonna vote for her because, and he's gonna champion Natalie. If Natalie makes it to the end, he is going to only speak positives towards Natalie.
yeah, it,
In fact,
y-
most people out there are because everyone is just going off about how amazing Natalie is and everything, how much of a beast she is. Like they could tell that she wants it really bad. So if she makes it back in, makes it to the final three. I mean, it's like I don't know if it happens, but she might be able to get enough votes to beat Tony. It's going to be close. I would say it could be close.
I would say it would be close, yes. But it comes back to a little bit of what you said, and it's hard going into, like this particular finale because where everyone's headspace is at. One, with pre-existing relationships, two, with how people have played the game, and three, and this is always a factor, the butthurt factor, which I don't think. I would like to think that no one would be like truly, truly butthurt.
Mhm.
Like Jeremy, I know was very, very upset, but
Yeah.
like those are things that do impact someone's choice,
Yeah.
and so it is interesting to see how if Natalie comes back and she makes it all the way to the end, who votes for the person that was voted out first in the entire
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. I mean, think of it, being a first boot and winning the game. Like that would be crazy, right?
That would be crazy.
Imagine if Reem came back in Edge of Extinction, won, played just like Chris, and then won the game. Like we would still be like, it sucks that an Edge of Extinction person came back, but it was the first boot, and the first boot was Reem, and we all liked Reem.
Yeah.
whereas the reason I think Chris got a lot of hate, and I still do not like the fact that someone can come back into the game and win. Uh, but we didn't know Chris. Like Chris
Yeah.
had nothing. We had no idea who this person was until the finale.
And I think that's the one thing about Edge of Extinction that makes it's part of the wild card variant of it, or like the wild card vibe to it all. And especially since it's, the end game and it's such a big pool. And yes, people have advantages and stuff, but it's still, well, I mean, obviously the people with like two advantages, the odds are more stacked towards their favor.
Mhm.
But, like it still could be anyone's game and someone could, like it could be a Ryan Johnson level of subduing expectations where it could be, God help it if it's Danny or something.
Yeah, and
Danny,
Danny had some screen time on there. Like to be honest, she had like a few moments. It could happen. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could.
I, but, but it is a little bit of what like I said, it is anyone's game. It could be Danny's game,
Yeah.
but like that's just like the crazy thing about Edge. You
Mhm.
never really know, and that's why all these people that are still in the game are, still wondering for that final factor when it comes to like, all right, who am I bringing to the end?
Mhm.
Well, at least for people that aren't in a
Yeah.
strong final three.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone but Tony and Sarah and Ben are worrying about who to get to the final three because they're in they're in it. They believe
They're
that
in.
yeah, which is great for Tony. Like the fact that Tony
It
has
is
two
great.
people that really want him in the finals with
People,
him.
we love goats. That's why
Yeah,
they're in petting zoos. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Watch. I think Ben. What I think Ben might win final immunity and put Tony and Sarah in final against each other.
that would be fucked. That would be fun. That would
Yeah.
be fun because that would be quicker.
That would be
They
a
would
that would be a
they would talk to.
crazy that would be one of the few fire making challenges I would actually care for.
It
Because
would be
usually a lot of times with
on
fire
the edge of
making,
your
I'm just
seat.
like, okay, who's moving on? I don't really care. But that one would be like, shit, it's about to go down.
Well, I mean, the whole rivalry, the 6 year kind of like friendship rivalry that they've been
Yeah,
having,
yeah,
like coming to its like, climactic end.
yeah.
I would love to see that.
They're one of the few pairs that have played on the same 3 seasons as Survivor.
Yeah. Um, and that's just another thing where it's just like that's another reason where yeah, I get why Sarah wants to make it to the end with Tony, but at the same time, you know, don't be loyal to the point where it hurts you. And I feel like that might be Sarah's downfall in this
Mhm.
season.
Yeah,
Loyal to a fault.
yeah. I mean, I would love to see Cops R Us to make it to the finals. Like I would love to see them there with maybe like Michelle. I
Yeah,
would love to see that because I actually think Michelle uh has the chance because she's such an underdog and people like to like root for the person that's not necessarily on top the entire game. Like
Yeah,
that's just like that. The jury will sometimes see that and be like, "Wow, that person has never been on the right side of the vote, but they're still there." Like that is
it's
like,
it is, and it comes back to what do people value? Where it's like, you know, it's like some people like there was a season of Big Brother, where this one guy he played a flawless game, and we're talking flawless. He was able to make promises and break them, and still like make it to the end. He never got any votes, never was on the hot seat or anything, and he won. But like it's another thing of like, yeah, he had the advantage the other time, but it's like it wasn't as compelling as the person that had to scrape and fight for it. When we go
yeah,
to the movies, the more compelling characters are the people that like scrape and fight for it. Like
yeah,
that's why the villain, or at least should be for the majority of the majority of the movie, is more powerful than the protagonist. It's because it makes like great storytelling, and it's like how are they going to overcome it? And I
exactly.
feel that does that kind of mentality. It does help people, like root for certain people. Like, I always was like a bit of a fan of Michelle coming into this season. She was like
Mhm.
number 6 on my
Yeah,
list.
I
And
I was rooting for her to do very well this season.
yeah, we both were. And,
Yeah,
you know, with the whole Wendell thing, like
yeah,
wanting her to like just get over that, where that just didn't seem like a good situation she was in. Always being, like always feeling like she was at the bottom throughout the entire, pretty much since the Wendell thing, since that tribe swap. And then, like making it there against all odds and winning the right immunities, which honestly is what helped her win her original season.
yeah. She
Was
won when it mattered.
exactly. And sometimes you don't need the most flashiest game to win,
Mm,
or but sometimes it's just as simple as what she even said this episode: perspective.
yeah,
Perspective is reality, and
yeah.
that's how
I
people vote.
I mean, if you're looking at it as who probably played the most modern day Sandra Diaz Twine game there is, Michelle's probably there. Michelle's probably the closest Sandra Diaz Twine we've had since Sandra Diaz Twine. In terms of winners,
A little bit. I just
can you name another person that plays like Sandra? Because I think Michelle's game is still just like as long as she gets to the end, she knows that her social game is going to be better.
I mean, yes, I would say out of everyone there, it is a little hard. I would say the I would say maybe except Tony, she does have the strongest game there.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say maybe Tony does is the sense of like he's the biggest threat. No
Yeah,
one wants to vote for him. No
yeah,
one wanted to give him the disadvantage.
yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, well, what's happening with Tony is what everyone feared about Boston Rob, Parvati, was that they would be such a big threat that in the end game, no one wants to make that move against them, and they just kind of slide on into the final three.
and it looks like that is what is
Yeah,
happening right
because
now.
there's no, I really don't think there's any way that Ben or Sarah are flipping on Tony at this next vote or the vote after that. I think Tony might flip on people. I think he might. I think he might flip on Ben, but I don't think that those two are going to flip on him.
No, that they're loyal to a fault. Even when
Yeah.
Michelle was giving Sarah like really reasonable, like, points where
Mhm.
it's like, do you really think you can beat Tony at the end?
Yeah.
And then Sarah's like, yeah. And I'm like, perspective, man.
Yeah.
Like what he was able to do with, disadvantages, and how, like, with his reputation, he was able to get so far in the game.
Mhm.
And reputation, too, does play a factor because he still made it so far, knowing for being a wild card and, like being very, very strategic. He made it so far in the game, whereas people like Boston Rob or Parvati or Sandra who, know how this game work and can navigate it pretty well, they all went before the merge. Um, where
Yeah.
Tony, like is on their level of gameplay
Mhm.
where he still managed to survive all of that.
Yeah. Now you got to imagine though, whoever comes back from Edge is going to want to target Tony because they're going to have heard all of this stuff from everyone. Everyone there on the jury is saying Tony is in charge of this game. So you know that the Edge person probably thinks, okay, I could probably be everyone here but Tony.
Yes.
So you
I
got
mean,
to imagine, yeah.
it's like I don't, and I know we've talked about this a lot, and I know it won't be the last time I talk about it. Uh, but it's like they're loyal to a fault about, like, oh, bringing Tony. And I feel like maybe it's a thing of like sometimes, where you're really overthinking something, and then something that doesn't seem like a rational decision seems
Mhm.
like the perfect idea.
Mhm. Yeah.
I feel maybe that's it.
Yeah.
It's like it's crazy enough where, or it's like it seems like the great play because it's not the obvious play, and
Mhm.
it's like, all right, out thinking outside the box, but
Yeah.
maybe too out of range from the box,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, I've actually did some of the numbers, and there's a chance that we might have a Suri moment this season. So assuming Tony and Ben don't play their idol at this next tribal, and assuming Natalie, Tyson, or Boston Rob come back into the game, and imagine if they win that immunity, that first immunity, they have their idol then at 5. Um, and then who's left? That it's Sarah and Michelle. So assume that in that final 5, Michelle wins immunity. Uh, and Denise got voted out right before that. Sarah could be going home because everyone else plays their idols.
Potentially, yes.
Like
Gosh,
like like there is a chance that happens. And
there
the thing, it would happen to Sarah, who on her season that happened to Shuri. Like
that
she
would
was
be
there for that.
that would be so sadly poetic because I like Sarah. Um,
Yeah.
she played a really, really strong game
Yeah.
that season.
Yeah.
Um, and it didn't feel good to Suri. Like when I saw it, I thought it was like crazy awesome, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like crazy and like one of the worst ways to go.
Yeah. Cerise's
Um,
like never been voted out like properly. She's always had some like weird shenanigans that gets her voted out.
yeah, but I forget how did she get voted out in Heroes versus Villains?
She got idled out by Tom Westman.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And then fans versus favorites, everyone thought it was gonna be a
they
final
assumed it
3, and
was
then
three, and then
it was a final 2.
which understandably so because Modern Survivor. Well, I mean, granted, they were still kind of like going a little back and forth in those days, but like the seasons before, it just
Yeah.
became Final Three,
Yeah,
Final
'cause
Two.
it was 3 seasons in a row we had final 3, and then they just said final 2. And
Yeah,
then they went back to final 3, and then back to another final 2.
and yeah, it's too bad for Suri, but ooh, she if that was gonna happen, it does seem like yeah, it could be Sarah, it could be a Denise, could be. It also depends on the other variable of like, let's say someone who has the individual immunity wins individual immunity, and they already have the hidden immunity idol. Would that person give it to someone else?
Yeah, exactly. You got to imagine that if you're out there and you win immunity on Final 5 with an idol, um, and you think that one of your allies is going home, you play it for them because you think that you need them in the Final 4 because like if you play an idol for them, get to the Final 4, then there's a chance that they win immunity and want to bring you along because you saved them.
exactly. Souvenirs are nice,
Yeah.
But $2 million is even nicer.
Yeah. Yeah,
You can just
exactly.
go online to one of the Survivor auctions. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I want that immunity idol, so I'm gonna put like a $1,000 bid on it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Do you want $1,000 or $2 million? That's your
Yeah,
choices.
exactly. Um, ooh. So much has happened this episode that gosh, like a lot of my notes, we've kind of covered most of the big stuff.
Hmm.
Um, what else? Oh yeah, Ben scheming. That was another thing where I thought that was really going to screw him over this episode.
Uh-huh.
Because when or he was like the whole like idol thing where it's like, oh Jeremy, I bet you or you should ask Michelle for your idol. Michelle, I bet you Jeremy is going to ask for your idol. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, like they saw the scheming and granted there wasn't really much they could do because Nick was it kind of came down to Nick and he, the man got himself he screwed himself
Yeah.
basically.
I mean, okay, so assuming you're Nick, who do you give that disadvantage to?
Who I give it to?
Yeah. Because I understood why he chose Ben. Because Ben, like, he wanted Ben out, right? So his logic was if he doesn't win immunity, then people might be more interested in voting out Ben.
That was kind of a thing where it was kind of like the whole thing about the steal a vote thing from Denise, where it's like everyone's thinking Denise, so that's why, you know, Kim played the idol for her.
Mhm.
So I kind of get that. For me, it was the whole voting out Jeremy thing or going alongside that plan instead of
Hmm. Yeah, I think Nick wanted Jeremy around. Like I think he like Jeremy is just a great he was a great shield this season, which is another poetic thing. Like, cause his whole thing was bring the meat shields, but he became the meat shield.
yeah.
Um, and like if I was like Nick or Tony or any of them, I would have wanted Jeremy to stay around until right when the Edge person comes back. Like that would have been the perfect time for me to get rid of him.
True, because there's no possibility of them coming back.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I just feel there was two challenges where Tony did not win immunity. That was the perfect time to get rid of him. Well,
And he like rarely got brought up. He got brought up like a little bit, but like it seemed like no one wants to pull the trigger on it.
no, people want to vote the trigger. It's just that the two of the people just don't. They're just like solely convinced that, you know, like Tony is their be all end all
Hmm.
and emphasis on end all because
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be their
Ah,
undoing.
we might have Tony Vlachos as a two-time winner, the king of Survivor, Tony Vlachos.
I can see it. I can see
Yeah,
it so vividly. It is his game to lose at this point.
yeah.
Um,
If that happens, though, he's going to come back and he's going to play a bad game again because no one's going to let him get past the pre-merge.
you, well, I mean, because this will be a last time a lot of people will play the game. Um, do you think Tony would retire?
I don't think so. I think that whoever wins is required to at some point, be it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they should be required to go out one more time as the king or queen of Survivor.
Maybe, maybe. I get, well, I mean, they have to do something with 50,
Yeah.
um, season 50,
Yeah, I was gonna say it has to be a big season like this. It can't be like a Game Changers All-Star season. It has to be like
season 50.
it has to be a season 50 kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that. That might bring a lot of people out of retirement. Oh, season 50, you say? Uh,
Oh, it's gonna be a $3 million prize. Oh,
3 million. Yeah. Uh, wow. I be honest, I know what I would do with the $1 million. It's
Mhm.
just what do I do with the rest after I finish paying off my student loans?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, the thing is, they have to pay a lot of taxes on that $1 million, so they actually only get like 560,000 at the end of it. which is still a lot. Like I know I just said that like it's
That
not a
that
lot,
gets
but it's still a lot.
it gets rid of my student loans.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
gets
It's
rid of my student loans.
yeah,
I'm fine with it.
yeah, and it probably, if you wanted, covers like a nice little house if you wanted, or pays off any mortgages that you might have.
Not in LA.
Yeah, not in LA. I
I
mean,
mean,
you could probably get like a little tiny like a one bedroom shack somewhere.
to own maybe.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but just it is going to be interesting to see who wins it. And I don't, I haven't heard this too much in recent Survivor. At least I can't recall it. But I know in the past people have asked what you plan on doing with this money. I remember Boston Rob wanted to start a scholarship.
Mhm.
So did Ethan. Um, like those are the things that like really come to mind that I remember.
Mhm.
Are scholarships or people who like lives were affected by certain causes. Um, do we see any of that might happen this time around?
Um, if anyone would do it, it would be Denise, I'd say. I think Denise might be someone that would have a cause that would want to
Like a
do that.
humanitarian kind of cause?
Yeah. I can't really see anyone else doing it. I don't think Tony's going to do it. I don't think Sarah's going to do it. Um, I don't think Michelle is going to do it. Ben maybe for for Marines.
True. I mean, it is
In fact,
another.
yeah, Ben definitely would do it for the Marines. He's not going to win, but I definitely think he would do it for the Marines.
Yeah, it is another thing too because of the social climate. We do have, well, Jeremy being another, but like right now in the game, we have two first responders
Hmm.
uh, currently.
Yeah.
And with the state of the world, like, granted, I haven't been following them on social media. I don't know how they are, like dealing with this whole thing. But you gotta wonder, like, how is that going to affect, like them if supposedly Tony wins or, Sarah wins, if they're going to use that money in some sort of way to
Hmm.
help.
Yeah. I'm really curious, because even if you don't win the season, you still get a good paycheck pretty much for making it. So I'm curious, and they said that this season, all the prices are like drastically higher. Like Natalie, if she doesn't come back in the game, she's still getting 25 grand, whereas before it would be $2,500. So I'm curious, what the runner up, how much would they get? Because usually they get 100 grand. This season they could get 1 million. For all we know, they could get 1 million. They could get 500 grand. It's not it's a lot
I feel
still.
500 would be more appropriate, but
Yeah.
who knows? All this money,
Yeah.
all these great contestants. I will say, going into like this finale with the five we have so far, probably one of the most solid ones we've had in a while.
Oh
If we
yeah.
look at like the roster,
Yeah.
granted, some of them are borderline goaty,
Hmm.
but however, they are known for being strong,
Yeah.
players.
Yeah. I mean,
In
I still
general.
think Tony could win this game. I think Denise could win this game. I think Michelle could win this game. Sarah might win this game if she's with the right people.
Sarah has to
S-
get rid of Tony.
yeah, Sarah has to get rid of Tony, and and then maybe Denise too. But I mean, Sarah might even beat Denise. I don't know. Like the thing is that Tony has all of those gameplay stuff under his belt more than Sarah's, and so
Yeah,
I guess if you get rid of that, then maybe all of Tony's belt goes over to Sarah.
could be.
So yeah, I guess the only person in this final five that I don't think is winning the game is Ben.
Yeah, that
And then I think I
like
think Natalie's coming back in the game, and I think she can win. So.
she could, yes.
So
Uh,
if we're going off of my assumed final six, five of them could win the game.
yeah. Speaking of which, like there have been talks of Natalie Parvati,
Mhm,
potentially Rob,
mhm,
Tyson, which that's who I'm hoping.
mhm.
Like that one final shot where it's like, if I'm coming back, I'm winning this game, and it's like, whoa, man, like I was hyped because I'm like, oh shit, it's gonna be an all-out war,
Yeah.
craziness
Oh
getting
yeah.
back.
Yeah. I did see a little bit of the preview, and it looked like Rob was doing pretty good in the challenge. I did notice that he was ahead of the majority of the people. I think there was like one other person next to him, and I couldn't see who it was. I think it might have been Tyson. Um, and then I think Natalie was like right behind them.
So
In my opinion, those three are the top front runners. Parvati, I would love to see Parvati come back. You
I mean,
know,
she's one of the
I
people
think
that has an advantage,
yeah, she
two
has an advantage.
advantages.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love to see her come back into the game because I think she could also win the game if she gets back in. I think everyone that are on the edge loves Parvati. I think they would vote for her because of her social game.
She had a great social game, like beforehand, where everyone was giving her, the fire tokens when they got
Yeah,
booted out.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
I mean, every old school player will vote for Parvati if she makes it to the
yeah,
end. There's not even like she's against Tony. It's like, no, we're gonna vote for Parvati.
it could be an old school kind of mentality that could definitely play into a
Because you
factor.
got to imagine they're bitter towards a lot of the new school players who voted them out
Yeah,
because and the thing is that they're all just like, it's not old school, we swear. Like, you got to know, some of them in the back of their minds was like, we don't want to play with old school players.
yeah. Uh, which that's why when we thought of the whole like future seasons we'd like to see, um that's why I'm a bit more hesitant on an old school versus new school, because this, well, despite them being on respective teams, being old school and new school has pretty much been this season,
Mhm.
where new school, just with the exception of like Natalie, swept all the old schoolers.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, and not only it was just she was unfortunate that she got put on the same time with Jeremy. Like honestly, that's what got her voted off. Like it wasn't even her fault. And I think that's going to be reason enough for people to forget that she got voted out first. Is that it wasn't her fault. It was just the game pretty much that she got put with someone who was basically everyone knew already that they were a duo. Um
no, I agree. It's hard early game because like people will look for any reason to vote you off, because
mhm,
it's like
yeah.
there's only so much data they have. Granted, they know these people more, but it's like kind of like what Sandra says, anyone but me. Oh, those two are a duo, automatically, boom.
Yeah.
Oh, Amber, her husband is on this show. Let's get her
Yeah.
out. The whole poker alliance thing, that, like there are, with this game, there are so many little factors that can like just tip something in one direction. And
hmm
that can just like blow up your game
Yeah.
like so quick.
Yeah. Well, so for the most part, you actually want to go to tribal council because you want to vote people off. You want to get the resume. But I think that first tribal council is so not skill based. It is solely based on everyone finding one person that they think is like different from everyone else and choosing that person and being like, okay, you know what? As long as we're not the first ones out, we're fine.
Yeah,
So
everyone is
like, yeah, go for it.
every, yeah, everyone is early game. Everyone's still kind of like testing the waters, even if they've played before.
Hmm
Not one season plays the same way,
Yeah.
especially with this one where it's like an all winter season. Everyone is technically a threat. It's, like you
hmm
still have to like dip your toe in like, okay, how's the meta of this game different from, heroes versus villains or second chance or game changers? You
hmm
know, what's the name of the game this season?
Yeah. Yeah. No. So yeah. So Natalie, I definitely look at her now as better like as a player because of the season, even though she was the first boot, which is
Yeah,
crazy. Like when I saw her being the first boot, I was like, okay, I guess it sucks for Natalie. I guess that's kind of it for her and her survivor
yeah.
journey. But then she just decides, you know what? I'm gonna crush it here on Edge, and she's
Which is
doing
what,
it.
yeah, like, also, I will say this, the fact that even though she and Parvati found the one disadvantage to Tony together,
Mhm.
I do find it a little weird that they didn't split it, but I guess
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Oh, I guess it's going back to the original Edge season, which was whoever got it first. Because
Fair enough.
they did bring that up where it's whoever so I mean Natalie could have I guess still given some of the tokens to Parvati, but I guess not. I mean it's weird too because Parvati helped Natalie. It wasn't like
Yeah,
Natalie did it by herself at that point.
they were a duo in that, but
Yeah.
who knows? Like, we know that she helped out Tyson potentially because she still had tokens left over, even with, using 3 for the advantage, 3 for Tyson's, and then for the peanut butter.
Mhm.
Um, that's 7 out of 14. She
Yeah.
really still has half her tokens.
I know
Uh,
she got 8 tokens from Nick. Like that was just crazy.
yeah, I guess it's a thing of like be helpful, but not to a fault.
Uh-huh.
Because, yeah, she could, help out other people's, but at the end of the day, she still wants to get into the game.
Mhm.
Um, so we'll see
Mhm.
how. Yeah, so I guess I kind of get it. Like, at the end of the day, Natalie wants to get back in the game,
Yeah.
probably working harder than anyone else
Yeah.
in the game so far.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge in this episode was just because she knew the island better than anyone else. Like, the only other person who knew where it could be was Wendell, but he was like, it's either this place or that place, and he chose wrong.
Wrong one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was watching this video on YouTube, I think a couple nights ago, when it was like most obvious winners, and there was a little bit of foreshadowing with Cochran and Fans versus Favorites too, where he's sitting on a rock that looks like a throne.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, it's very on the
Yeah.
nose. And I was
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I knew that Cochran was winning that season, like, in the merge. Like, when the merge was happening, I was like, he's winning this season. There's no
I was
way.
hoping because he's one of my favorites. I
Uh-huh.
was hoping so hard that he was going to
Yeah.
win, and he did so.
Yeah.
So I did get a little bit of like a callback to that because I was like, oh, could this be a potential foreshadow?
Mhm.
Because honestly, I think I'm giving her the MVP of this episode.
Yeah, Natalie.
'Cause, yeah,
Fair points. Yeah, she's one of my contenders for potentially getting the MVP.
because not only this episode did she get 8 fire tokens, which it's like a snowball effect. We thought 6 was totally bizarre, and then it happened. And then when she said 8, that was like extremely like, what the hell?
That was
Especially,
like that was extreme extortion. Like Tony got the extortion advantage, but then she extorted for Nick even more.
it was like, yeah, I did 6 last time. Let's just up it. Let's up it. Let's make 8.
Like she didn't
So I
need all those
guess
tokens. She did not need all those tokens.
she has 7 left over. Um,
Yeah, those are going to be good souvenirs.
exactly.
Because you can't use them anymore. Like I thought that when you get into the game, I thought at least for like one tribal council that they would still be in effect in some regards.
Exactly. Um,
Ugh.
not only that, but like also what she did this episode, making a very, very strong bond with Tyson, giving him an idol in case he comes back into the game. Uh, yeah, I
Like
just
that was a great social move. Like that literally was a social move on Edge.
exactly. So, and also because Tony, it's kind of like the thing of like we all know Tony is kind of like just doing pretty good, so it's not as impressive
Yeah.
as like the last couple of
Yeah.
weeks where it's like, yeah, he's still there, he's still
Yeah.
like at the center of all of this.
I just don't see. I don't think he's going home until Fire. Like I think that's the only time that he can go home in this game.
Even with, yeah, That
and even that is like it's not a guarantee he's going home because I bet he could make fire pretty fast.
I would imagine so.
I don't know if he
Especially,
makes it as fast as Ben. That's probably going to be the tough one. If he gets put in against Ben, I don't think he wins.
but I mean, I feel like they would try and get rid of. I know they said they wanted to try and get rid of Ben because of how quick he can make fire,
Yeah.
and that was one of their like the ideas that formed in their head originally for like when they were thinking about getting rid of Ben. So it is a possibility, but could he go out at 6 or 5? We don't know, but
I hope he does. I don't want to see him in the finale. I mean in the final three.
final three.
Uh,
Even though he's one of the few, I do like, however, this episode. We went from you dominating me on who's left in the game to win to boom, Jeremy, boom, Nick. And
now
so
it's
it's
3-2.
3-2. And then the odds are more in my favor if someone on my team from coming back.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
it could
I think Natalie's coming back and she's on my team. So,
potentially, but also Thompson is on mine and Rob. Or
uh-huh.
Rob's on my team, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or Rob,
I have Parvati, so
do that
so
part.
I mean, I think those are the four front runners, and I think we each have two of them that's our potential.
Yeah, so we'll see. This ain't over between us.
Yeah, not at all.
Even though I was almost dead sure I was screwed.
Yeah, because your only choices were pretty much Denise, and it still is Denise until we get our returnee.
Exactly. Um, so we did talk about, my MVP. Who would you say is your MVP of this episode?
So I have a few choices, and I might talk them through a little bit just to kind of see which one I think is the best. You talked about Natalie. I think Natalie is a good choice as well. Now this one is Denise. I actually almost want to give it to Denise because she took a play out of one of her old tribe mates' book, and that was Zayn Knights by saying, "Hey guys, it's okay if I get voted out.
And
I
made
totally
it
get it."
post Zane and made it work.
Yes. So there's definitely a part of me that wants to acknowledge that because when I saw her doing that, I was like, "Is she going to get voted out just like how the first boot of her season got voted out?"
There's always like funny things and like story wise and like strategy wise where you might see one thing and you're like, oh, this didn't work. What if I tried it this way? Kind of like that whole steal like an artist thing where it's like, oh, that was a good idea. Maybe let me see if I can do it better.
Yeah, and she did. She tweaked it, and because like I think that's a terrible move as the first tribal. Because as we just said, you're looking for any reason to vote someone off, and as the first vote, you can't do that because that's just giving everyone the excuse to not be the first one voted off.
Yeah.
Um. So I kind of want to give credit there to Denise, and then my next one, is actually Michelle. I'm thinking potentially Michelle because she did play her coin the way she should have. She shouldn't have played it for Jeremy. And she won immunity in a chance where she was going home. Like there was no way she was getting through that tribal unless she had immunity.
Those are
Um
both
yeah.
valid
Yeah.
choices.
Yeah, it guarantees her into the finale, which is great. And then also of course just Tony because his spy nest worked. We got to see his spy nest come back in and it worked.
So
Like
juicy.
he was able to tell that Denise was potentially wanting to target him, and even though he didn't target Denise, he knew that that plan was in motion and was able to work with it and find a way to make a new plan.
The Spinus comes back. Not only that, the fact that he didn't have immunity after being on a win streak and being the clear biggest threat, and no one's still wanting to vote him, that does merit some recognition as well.
Oh yeah, like his social game is really strong, and Sarah said like his social game is not, but I think that she doesn't realize that his social game is as strong as it is.
I think
I think that's what she's blind. I think she is blind to Tony's social game.
yeah, I I do think it is that because yeah, she's known Tony, and then like there's knowing someone, and then sometimes you have pre notions about like you know someone so well in the sense of like oh this is how you see
Mhm.
them, like and that's how you think everyone else kind of sees them too. Like you're so used to like being around this one person that you think everyone else sees them that way.
Mhm.
Um, because from your perspective, Tony's just this crazy goofball that's climbing up trees, wrestling sharks, and everything else.
Mhm.
And that's just, like good old Tony when they're having barbecues and stuff. But like
Yeah.
everyone else around her is like, yeah, Tony is like running this game. Which is a little bit why Sarah and I'm going to include Ben are tied for LVP.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to imagine that they should have at least been talking like, okay, when are we going to get out Tony? Like, even if they didn't want to get out Tony now, they should at least be talking like, okay,
They
we should get him out at the final six or final five.
they had two chances to at
Yeah.
least knock out his idol,
Yeah.
very least knock out his idol,
Yeah.
and they're so blinded with like Tony being their ride or die
Hmm.
that it's like it's hindering their own games and like strategy. It's just like it's the Tony show, and it's like, all right, Tony, who should we take out? Or all right, Tony, who should go home, Nick or Denise? Do we keep Jeremy for a little bit longer, or what are the benefits of doing this, Tony? Like they're like just watched Mean Girls the musical last night, and
Uh, wow.
like I'm trying to culture myself more. And how am I forgetting her name? But basically, Regina George's like right hand girl, where it's like, yes, Regina, no, Regina. Just
uh,
like totally like doing everything to try and get Tony to the end,
mhm.
to a fault where it's like starting to become their thing is, aligned with
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah. How do
And
I get Tony to the end? That seems like that's their game plan. Uh, well, I would have to agree, but I would probably put Ben as the LVP. I think he's just playing the worst game. I think Sarah has the ability to throw Tony out still and make it
yeah,
to the end, whereas Ben, I think he needed Tony already out.
I feel the reason why I have them tied is for both one, like I don't think Ben is really doing anything to further his game, but it's the fact that Sarah can do something about it.
Hmm.
More than anyone else on the island, she is the one and has been the one that could have made a move on Tony
Hmm.
for like last few tribal councils.
Hmm.
But the fact that in spite of all that, she didn't do
Yeah.
anything is why, where it's like
Yeah.
this could be a $2 million
Yeah.
decision.
I think that if she thinks if she votes out Tony, because she said like if I end up on the jury, don't ever fucking talk to me again. I think that Tony will just use that against her. Like, well, you just voted me out. So I think Sarah thinks she has to get to Final Four with Tony, and then maybe use Ben to beat Tony at Fire. Because that is her win. That is a win condition for her. Is if Tony goes out by Fire, like it's like, and Sarah would probably phrase it as like, Tony, we need you to beat Ben. Ben is a strong competitor in this game, and you're the best one at making fire here. And like that's a lie, but she might phrase that to make Tony think like, okay, they trusted me. I need to do this for them.
I mean, ego can be the biggest downfall of anyone in this
Hmm.
show.
Yeah,
Was Boston Rob's downfall. It was
yeah,
Sandra's downfall.
yeah,
Could be this legend's downfall.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna also give my MVP to Natalie real fast. Cause I think she's coming back in the game, and I think she played a great episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Ooh, uh, think we covered pretty much everything. We covered everything we wanted to, even talking about next episode of like
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot. There's going to be a lot to unpack next episode.
I did what was let me check what I wrote at the very end. After I was reassured that it is going to be next week that we're having the finale.
Mhm.
Because I was a little worried for a sec because I saw the recap and I'm like, don't pull a Walking Dead on us.
Uh-huh.
Um, oh yeah, bloodbath. I said it was going to be a bloodbath. Because first the like battle royale to get back into the game, and then that's really going to shake up the finals. You know, like the finals, and then like the three tribal councils and challenges going into that,
Mhm.
and then the final tribal where you have like it's going to be epic.
Mhm. Yeah, the
It's going to
finale's
be
a 2-hour episode, right? As well.
yeah.
Like, there's no way that you do this in an hour.
There's just you can't like
Yeah, you have like because I know that in the finale they usually do the tribal seems a little shorter and the conversations are a little shorter, but they try to they there's so much in it that they have to make everything a little shorter for that reason.
yeah, especially since they have three challenges, three and a
Yeah,
half
yeah,
count the fire
yeah,
making.
yeah. I mean, they used to do finale at like Final Four,
Yeah,
when there's only a few, and that would make sense if they wanted to do it in an hour. But now, if you do six, there's no way you could do it in an hour.
no, yeah, and they got rid of the whole. And this was one of my favorite things about the finale, and they haven't done it in forever. You know, the torches of their fallen people, which I
Agree.
always enjoyed because it was like a nice reflection. We got kind of like final words from everyone.
Yeah, yeah, you got to see where everyone stood on the people they voted out.
Yeah. Um, so it is because it is a lot to pack into one episode because I'm not I said three and a half, technically four challenges.
Yeah, because you have the Edge of Extinction challenge, and
Yeah,
that's
and
that's
so I
that,
think
that that's going to start off the episode. Like, they're not going to do anything else. It's just going to go right into it.
yeah, because they already did the recap. They're not going to do the recap again.
Yeah.
This does lead, and I guess it does lead to a discussion. I don't know what you've heard yet. I haven't, because as soon as I finished the episode, it was starting to get late for me, and
Mhm.
I'm an early riser. Like I get up at like around 6:30 or whatever.
Mhm.
That's just how my internal clock works. So I was like tired, and I was like, I'm going to bed. But do you know what they're doing for the reunion?
No idea. I'm assuming it's through Zoom.
It would have
I'm
to be.
I'm I'm assuming that's because they've been doing that with a lot of shows now. The Voice is doing all their stuff through Zoom. Like, they're literally recording the singers singing through Zoom and then playing it as the judges are sitting in their living rooms. And then they judge based on what they hear over this recording.
uh, maybe. Um, because Army doesn't want them, like in the sense of like, granted, technically speaking, whoever wins the vote is not necessarily a part of like the official like reunion show.
Mhm.
Usually that's at the very end, and it just goes right into there because they announce
Yeah.
it live.
Mhm.
Um, so it is interest or like because part of me was wondering, recently, were they going to wait? I mean, this is all because of Walking Dead, where I'm like, is anything guaranteed to, like actually have a real finale anymore?
Uh-huh.
Walking Dead has traumatized me so much.
Yeah, I can tell.
I was upset. But
Yeah, what I'm curious about is so typically they would give all the contestants $10,000 if they showed up for the reunion. Uh, now I'm assuming they have to give them all $10,000 again, even though they're all doing it just from home.
I mean,
So I mean that would be the easiest $10,000 ever is just to be at home with the thing opened.
um, I would hope so. I would hope that everyone would be able to make it. That being said, we have 3 contestants that are first responders. Though I would think that, their squad and stuff would give them like one night to like,
Yeah, if they got 39 days off, you'd imagine that they could have someone else cover them for one night.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I hopefully everyone is able to make it. Hopefully, like, granted, I watched the news, but I haven't heard anything, or I haven't covered like, individual Survivor contestants who have been affected by this whole thing and how it's affecting their day-to-day lives. Hopefully, and I'm saying this in the sense of like, hopefully, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what I've been seeing on the news or hearing from third parties. Hopefully, everyone's family is doing okay. But that's still a thing. Like, I hope we do see everyone, and I hope everyone is safe. I think that's the conclusion I want to come to.
Agreed. Yeah, safety is the most important thing. And even though like it sucks that we're not gonna have a reunion, it's better that everyone out there is safe and not putting everyone at a potential risk.
I mean, also the thing about like waiting for a live reunion, I feel like, listen, people that are getting married. Did you ever have a Carlos for Stage Combat?
Yes.
Yeah, one of our college professors got married during all of this. They had like, they took like the necessary precautions, but they're like, they couldn't wait to like, finally get married. So they went through it. We can have weddings and big events like that happening through Zoom, including like graduations. I feel like we can do, Survivor one, Survivor reunion.
Yeah. Obviously it's going to suck, but I think it can be done. It's going to be different. It's going to be a little different than what we're used to. But at the end of the day, I'd rather us know who won than for them to say, okay, we got to wait till everything blows over.
Yeah.
Because then that could be a few months before that happens, and it's like, I don't want to wait a few months to see, because I'll have lost interest at that point. It will have been months, and I haven't been watching. I'd have to go back and like rewatch the entire season like a few days before to get back into like, okay, who is playing the game here,
And
who
like
is
the
winning.
momentum of all that.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's just not good that you would have to have your fans be doing that.
AMC.
Yeah.
I
mean, I just saw that the new Scooby-Doo movie, Scoobs, is just getting a wide release. Like it's
on demand.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there is a thing about adapting to the current climate that, I mean, all of us have to do. And I guess it's like the give and take of it all. However, I am curious how this is going to affect season 41 and 42. Apparently, they're still looking for new players, and I think I've heard it enough where I'm like, all right, I'll make a tape, guys.
Yeah, on my next day off, I'm gonna make a tape. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna get it together.
I think I'm going. I think I've been thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, yeah, we'll see. What's the harm in making a tape?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not concerned about this. I think it's gonna blow over by the time that they do send us out there, so I'm not too worried about that whole thing.
True. Though if one of us gets on there, we have to be very, very careful of like, like not trying to spoil things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if one of us gets on, we're actually not allowed to do the show.
Oh.
Yeah, we would have to find a replacement or just postpone it to the next season.
Well, this is your channels.
Yeah, exactly. So
pretty much either way.
Yeah, because we're not allowed to like talk about the season at all. Because Stephen Fishback, when he went back for Second Chance, he was on Rob's podcast, and he had to step down for that season because of it.
Well, we'll find someone. It would be cool to. Well, I mean, you would have to find someone, or you
Yeah,
would just
I could totally find probably a Survivor contestant at that point.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I could get you like Kelly Wentworth.
ooh. You know, we do have a. I know at least two AMDA teachers, AMDA being our old school, um, that are Survivor fans. Maybe grab
True.
one of them.
Yeah, Todd
Um,
Patrick.
Todd Patrick, John Sloman.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah.
But anywho,
I
I
think
think
that's it for
wraps
this
it up.
episode.
Yeah. Um, I'm excited. Um, I'm counting the day. Well, I mean, there's a lot going on till then, in the sense of like so many like of these days. Even though have you heard this meme? Whereas like there's only 3 days of the week now. Since earlier this episode we were talking about days of the week.
Yeah.
There's only tomorrow, today, and yesterday.
Yeah.
That's our week.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I guess that's when we'll see you guys 1 week from now, where we're gonna talk about everything.
Yeah, the finale. Now, do you? And as Jeff said, this is the greatest season of Survivor ever. I don't think that's true.
I mean, I think it's definitely up there. I definitely also think that we have, not including who might be coming back from Edge, probably one of the strongest finales, players left in recent memory.
Yeah.
So
I would probably put this as like bottom 10. I mean, like out of the top 10, like it would be in that bottom. So it would be like 8th. I would put it probably like 8th.
I would really have to just like really do a deep dive and everything, especially since a lot of seasons that because a lot of seasons I kind of binge back to back, and so I definitely would have to like sit down, remember what happened in each season, and be like, okay.
Yeah. Stay tuned for our season rankings.
Exactly. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. And we're gonna have a lot of time in the preseason, because there's gonna be a long gap between the next season.
Yeah. So, and even longer when one of us is going to be filming in season 41. Wouldn't it be funny in this world where, what if you got on season 41, I got on season 42, and it just films that way?
I mean, it would be great, because then when we go back for this podcast, we'll probably have quite a bit of an audience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, we would actually be getting paid for this.
I like getting paid when I act. It would be awesome if that happens more often. Hosting, paid host,
Yeah, I know.
I would have to give my agents money though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's about it for this episode.
yes. This is our final goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, guys.
Adios.